What's going on there, folks? Good evening. It is the Earthmaster here on this beautiful Wednesday evening, March 2nd, 2022 is the date, about 7:20 p.m. California time here, West Coast time. The latest quake shows a 4.5 earthquake right around the Middle America Trench, it looks like, maybe a little bit south there. Let's go ahead and check that out on the latest map here from the USGS as I pull this up. Stand by for just a second. Voila, there we go. 4.5 on the EMSC model, 4.3 here on the... Actually, it doesn't even look like the USGS has reported this newest earthquake here on the globe. They're still just showing an earthquake here off the coast of Mexico. So we will check out the EMSC model while we're at it here, because I do have the combination, once again, on the Earthquake 3D globe of the EMSC and also the USGS. EMSC very quick when it comes to getting earthquake activity on the map. Let's go ahead and zoom in here and see exactly where this earthquake is striking at. Looks like 4.5 inland, well inland. You can see that earthquake right there on the map. About 32 minutes ago, into the at least the region name here, into the Mexico area. Pretty deep though, 110 kilometers there for the 4.5. We'll see if the USGS gets on the ball with that earthquake. They have been extraordinarily slow in late times here. Got quite the swarm kicking up here into the Puerto Rico area. Let's go ahead and bring up the all magnitudes here on the map. Of course, southwest area of Puerto Rico, very typical here in movement. Right around the southwest edge of Puerto Rico, this area gets quite a bit of swarming in general. But we are seeing a little bit of heightened movement up here to the north end of the Puerto Rico around San Juan, and areas to the north around the Puerto Rico Trench. So kind of watching this area pretty closely. The Caribbean area has actually been kind of on the active side here over the last couple weeks. So watching that. As far as the magnitudes go, looks like a couple threes in there mixed in. Pretty certain I've seen a 4.1 pop its head in there. Yep, 4.1. This one's kind of deep up towards the Puerto Rico Trench. Now remember, this area definitely capable of producing a sizable earthquake, and I'm talking sizable above 7.0 in the magnitude department. It's been a while since we've seen anything significant up here, but always good to pay attention to what's going on there around the Puerto Rico area when it comes to the deep movement around the Puerto Rico Trench. South America, not a whole lot going on here, just 2 earthquakes, and looks like that was way earlier this morning, way earlier. So yeah, not a whole lot of renewed movement here when it comes to the 4.0 threshold. Some of that older earthquake activity was deep though into the Peru-Chile Trench, 134 kilometers for that 4.3. We have been seeing a little swarm of activity here around the Mid-Atlantic Ridge, just off the coast of what do we got up here? A couple different countries up there, but well off the coast there into the Mid-Atlantic Ridge. Pretty shallow earthquake movement, 5.3 and a 5.4. But I was noticing here, USGS of course not showing it because it's somewhat lighter earthquake activity. Did see some movement around the Canary Islands here on the EMSC model. I do want to pull that up and see exactly what's going on around the Canary Islands. Stand by for just a second while I get this kind of pulled up here. Seeing a little swarm of movement here. Nothing significant. Let me go up one more chart here so we can see a little bit better detail. So out here around La Palma as well, it looks like just around the area, seeing a couple earthquakes, 2.8 there, and also a couple smaller ones within the region that the EMSC models are showing. But if you look at the earthquake map here over the last couple weeks or so, things have really kind of calmed down around the La Palma area, the volcano out there in the Canary Islands, and just starting to see a little bit of uptick, at least today, with the movement there. 2.8 about an hour and a half ago around the Canary Islands, and you can see some subsequent smaller earthquakes there in the region. So kind of watching that area pretty closely for further volcanic activity, or at least as far as increasing volcanic activity goes in the Canary Islands area. South Sandwich region, 5.0, 35 kilometers down into the subduction zone. That one from this morning as well. Just as far as new earthquake activity goes, most of it has been over here in the Atlantic and over here along the western part of the Pacific Ring of Fire. Go ahead and jump into Hawaii real quick on the Big Island. Seen a couple earthquakes up here. Look at this. Got the latest earthquake 2.0 up here in the northern part of Hawaii, it looks like. Well north of Kilauea. This one pretty deep, 28 kilometers. Also a little earthquake well off the coast here. 3.0 at 42 kilometers. So kind of, I think we look at this map pretty much every night and on every update. So we kind of look for these oddball quakes out here away from our typical regions to maybe get a better picture of what's kind of going on out here on the Big Island, and just a little bit of a deeper movement taking place now in some little oddball areas, southeast region of Puerto Rico. Some movement, not a whole lot, 2s and 3s mixed in there. A little bit of activity west of the Loihi Seamount, well off the coast here. Looks like a 11.7 kilometers into the region there. Let's go ahead and check out the west coast here. Southern California is starting to light back up a little bit with some red circles there on the map indicating that most recent earthquake, 1.1, kind of just off the San Andreas Fault near Vincent, California. Never heard of it. Never heard of Vincent. Of course, California's got lots and lots of little towns and names. Even though I've lived here most of my life, I still don't know them all, nor do I care to. 1.3 out in the Big Bear City, California area, right around the Johnson Valley fault system up here. Looks like that's a pretty lengthy fault system. Haven't really seen too much earthquake activity here north of the San Bernardino Mountains, but some activity kind of kicking up there today, or at least within the last hour, around the Huntington Beach, Newport Beach area, something way offshore. This one was from this morning, 2.0 out there in the ocean, close to the San Pedro Channel, 0.9, a very shallow earthquake out there in the ocean. No major swarmings to note here in the San Jacinto Fault Zone or the Elsinore Fault System. We haven't really seen any further swarming up here around the San Cayetano Fault or the Mission Ridge Fault System up here into the northern part of the region here. This was kind of swarming here a couple days ago, and kind of got a little iffy up here with this migration of swarming. Since then, we haven't really seen any further movement, but still kind of watching that area. Even though it's quiet now, we can get these swarms kicking up just out of the blue. Down around the Salton Sea, some earthquake activity, and some of it pretty deep. 10 kilometers, 11 kilometers for a couple ones down there. Just been seeing a lot of deeper earthquake activity up and down the California coast area. Looking like a return of movement here in the creeping section of the San Andreas Fault. Some microquakes up and down the that segment of the San Andreas Fault. Also Nevada and up here around the Antelope Valley area of California, getting in on some return of earthquake activity there. Quite a few 2s and some 1s kicking up here. It's been relatively quiet here within this region for the past few days, couple weeks now. But things starting to fill in a little bit for that area. Some movement taking place earlier today. Also outside of the Truckee area, right around Interstate 80, north of the airport, it looks like some very odd earthquake activity. Negative. Still not for certain about what that means there on the negative side. But deep, I guess, 7 kilometers or so below the surface of the mountains there. Northern California, not a whole lot going on. I can't say there's a whole lot going on at all. It looks completely quiet throughout Oregon and Washington as well. Mount St. Helens, not a whole lot of activity being reported. Let's go ahead and check out the tremor map here from the pnsn.org site. Shows about 37 epicenters just outside of Portland. Definitely way underneath Portland. This is not surface quaking. Roughly down there about 35 kilometers or so into the subduction zone underneath the Portland, Oregon area. Kind of about the center part of the Cascadia subduction zone. Last night we seen some movement in further down south here into the southern end of the Cascadia, but still no spectacular amount of tremor taking place for quite a while now. Let's go ahead and check out the volcanic seismicity map here from Mount St. Helens here. I want to check out the seismographs and just double check, make sure the USGS is being legit and reporting the earthquake activity. I kind of go to these live seismograph stations as they are public accessible, and when it comes to monitoring earthquake data, that's kind of what I look for. This recent map doesn't look all that readable at all. Let's see if the previous day is showing activity. Yeah, definitely some activity kicking up here. Looks like earlier this morning some microquake activity showing up here. See those quakes there. Some of this could be ice quakes, these little bitty ones, because there's no doubt quite a bit of snow up there, and I'm sure still freezing temperatures at night. But definitely some seismic activity in the chart here too. See at least 4 or 5 earthquakes, very small earthquakes, but nonetheless there's definitely some showing up there on the map, and of course not being reported here by the USGS on the all magnitudes map. Neither the PNSN network map. I don't see anything here within, well, the last 2 days does show some activity in the orange circles, it looks like. Nothing within the last 2 hours. Of course, I didn't see really anything in the last 2 hours either on the seismograph, but definitely some movement here over the last couple days at Mount St. Helens. Yellowstone, what's going on over here in Yellowstone? Definitely had a pretty good swarm of activity kicking up here earlier, late last night and earlier this morning. Let's see what's going on here right now. There is that movement that was picked up all over the park, centered roughly around the, I'm going to say the borehole area, Little West Thumb region is where the epicenter of these quakes were kind of kicking off here. Grant Village showing that activity as well. Every single one of these little spikes there indicative of a localized earthquake. And the bigger ones, of course, some of these got up into the lower 2 range, these thicker colored lines. Of course, the thicker color, or thicker these spikes are, the larger magnitude it will be. Now, if these were to be 3s or 4s, they would definitely be thick and kind of drawn out as well, as far as the thickness, the reading of the earthquake itself. But there's definitely a good amount of earthquakes there that struck earlier this morning. Looking at the past couple hours, we're still seeing some activity in the very small range. Looks like at least a couple small microquakes there, the blue, the black little spikes. And a few hours ago, a little bit more noticeable quakes here in the region. But kind of tapering off a little bit. These things can come and go. I've watched these swarms for quite a while. I still remember the pretty big swarm they had a couple years ago in the summertime. That thing went on for about 2 or 3 months of just almost continuous swarming every day. And I've been watching this since I remember 2006, 2007, maybe 2008, somewhere around there. Anyway, I had that pretty good swarm at the end of the year in December, lasting into January. Had quite a few 3s and some 4s kicking up there. A whole lot of fear-mongering was going on around that time. People throwing out the word that Yellowstone was going to erupt. Of course, you look for seismograph. You look for not only earthquake activity, but also GPS stations, GPS monitoring stations when it comes to vertical displacements. And right now, there still looks like there's a subsidence of the caldera. But sometimes it takes a little bit for the data to come in when it comes to the past week or so. But we will check that definitely at a later date. But for now, just kind of calming down, a little tapering off of the earthquake swarm at Yellowstone National Park tonight. Backing out of here, at least, here on the map, at least they're showing earthquake activity. They only show about 15, definitely way more than 15, but I definitely applaud the USGS for getting the notifications out here. Oklahoma, some movement up here in the just outside of Woodward area. Looks like, what do we got out there? I'm not for sure. A couple small microquakes. I'm not for sure exactly what's out here. There might be some gas fields. There may not be. I don't even have to zoom in. I mean, it's pretty obvious. There's quite a bit of oil and gas fields out here. All these little squares are not beautiful camping sites out there around the Woodward area. They are indeed, oil pumping operations and wastewater injection wells. So those two little earthquakes taking place amongst the hundreds of injection wells out there. Let's back out of here and go to the terrain. That's something you don't want to hear when you're flying, right? What else we got here? Cover the Tonga area and the Kermadec Trench. Of course, they had that 6.6 this morning, shaking things up out there in the Kermadec Trench area, Kermadec Islands. Since then, we've seen a couple small aftershocks, smaller than the 6.6, obviously, 5.5 and a 5.1. Nothing really else to report down here south of the region. I do want to check out the GeoNet servers here and see what these folks are reporting for the New Zealand area, New Zealand seismic activity. Looks like there was a 3.4 around the Christchurch area earlier this morning, 11 hours ago, at a depth of about 8 kilometers. Let's go back over here to the all magnitudes and see what we got here. A little bit of swarming out there, or actually a little bit of activity up there in the North Island over the last hour or so. Some small quakes, but look at this here. 4.4 25 minutes ago. Well north of the region there, but yeah, is EMSC even reporting it? I don't even know if they are. It's 4.4 magnitude. Let's see if these guys are reporting it. Definitely showing 4.0. I don't see it on the map here. These guys would definitely show the 4.0 and above. But yeah, just a little odd. So GeoNet showing a little bit of activity here north. Then again, these are all includes deleted earthquakes, so it's hard to say exactly if these are legit earthquakes or not. All I know is GeoNet showing some activity. They're mostly around the North Island area over the past couple hours, while the EMSC and USGS definitely not reporting on that movement. Up around the Tonga area, some deeper movement here with a 5.0 and a 4.6, and over here around the Horseshoe of the Bend, pretty shallow earthquake around the Loyalty Islands area, 10 kilometer deep 5.0, and some movement up around Papua New Guinea. It looks like a couple fives kicking off there. Mariana Trench, Philippine Plate, all looks pretty quiet in the center and surrounding edges. Still waiting to see if things are going to kick up here in the Kuril-Kamchatka Trench, but right now just a couple fours from earlier today. No return to movement in that region, and throughout China looks pretty quiet. Earthquake out there in Afghanistan earlier this morning. Mediterranean Sea looks pretty quiet over there around Crete as well. There's another earthquake out there around the Puerto Rico region. What do we got coming in out here? See, this one just came in. We're just talking about the these migration of quakes up here. Got a 3.8 coming in there into the very close to the Puerto Rico Trench at 63 kilometers. So I'm going to leave at the end of this video far as the next video that you will see here when the video ends, coming up next or whatever. It will be a little review that I did on the Puerto Rico Trench. I go into a little bit more detail about this area and the potential for a large quake in the region. I don't like to cover it in every single video because then it just, it kind of makes a video unnecessarily long, but I will include it. It is up on my channel, a little bit more in-depth look at the Puerto Rico Trench and the possibility of a pretty large quake in that area. But today, definitely seeing quite a bit of movement up there, kind of migrating into the Puerto Rico Trench area, 63 kilometers for that latest 3.8 in the region of the Puerto Rico Trench. Let's see what else we got here. We covered Yellowstone. We covered the tremor map, which is not really sufficient. Let's cover the space weather. We had a little M flare kick off here earlier, a little surprise M flare kicking up into the lower range. See that right there? This little spike up into the yellow, which is the M. Looks like a M 2.0 from a sunspot. Solar activity is now at moderate levels thanks to an M 2.0 solar flare observed around 2958 earlier today. This region is moving into an Earth-facing position and is in good spot for Earth-directed eruptions. More updates regarding this event will be available later, when I'm sure when it decides to pop off some more activity. But 2958 up here on the surface of the sun, kind of looking a little bit on the dynamic side there to produce further flaring. Also 2957 over here, definitely looking somewhat active as well. A little trail of sunspots stretching behind it. So we'll see what that has to offer in the coming days. Right now, C flare has been elevated up to an 80% chance. M flare elevated as well. M flare at 35% chance with an X flare potential of 5%. So things are starting to get a little active finally as we head towards the solar maximum, hopefully in 2025. I really want to see this thing ramp up. I'm not even joking. I love the solar weather activity. And hoping one day to be able to get up and see the auroras one of these days. Let's see what else we got here. Any coronal holes facing us? I think we got a little bit. Got this one right here kind of facing us here. Looking a little bit more more open, I guess is a word when it comes to the solar wind stream. But sunspot activity, kind of the big deal at the moment when it comes to the activity there on the sun. Let's see what else we got. Anything suspicious out here in the data buoy systems? I think this thing was going off out here a couple days ago around the Java Trench. See what this thing is reporting. I don't believe it's anything to worry about. It could be technical glitches out there with this data buoy system here, but not for sure exactly what that is. Very minor adjustment, but why it would go into tsunami event mode, who knows? But doesn't look like anything of suspicious nature. Just a little glitch in the matrix, so to speak. All right, folks, I'm going to jump off here and hope everyone has a good night. Got some dinner cooking right now. And yeah, all right, guys, have a good night. Stay safe out there. We will chat you guys a little bit later on. Once again, just a reminder. See, even on this globe here, a little bit of swarming up here, well north of the area. A couple twos kicking off here. This earthquake 3D globe definitely showing more earthquakes, and that's because of the EMSC model and the USGS model mixed in together. So you will see threes pretty much worldwide, twos as well. I do have it set to not show 1.9, but for some reason it is showing a 1.9 here on the globe. It is what it is. Luckily, those aren't showing up all over the place, but hey, we'll take it. Just kind of gives us a verification of some swarming activity hitting this area. All right, guys, have a good night and stay safe out there. We will chat you another time. Peace out.